Great. So it's actually really significant that word sits in the middle there. You know, God made one almighty promise to us, and that was that he would inhabit our togetherness, or he'll be in the midst of our gatherings. So it's really important that you do that, and whether you do that here in this church or in other contexts, in small groups, that's really important that you commit to that, and particularly when you don't want to go. My wife and I find that's probably when you really should. So thanks for coming. I know you've invested your time to be here, so I hope that my message to you will really bless you today, okay? So yeah, like Jamie said, been involved with Jamie here on the board of directors for Grapplers for Christ Australia, which is a real privilege and honour. Another role that I do in ministry, I'm the Victorian Red Frog Coordinator. And you guys might know a little bit about that. And my profession, I've been in the police force for about 15 years, or just over. So, and like Jamie said, I'm one of the co-founders of Academy Christus in Indonesia and Australia, along with Jeff and Emma Collins and of course Jamie Murray from G4C. So it's really funny, my background's actually Malaysian, and in Malaysia, religion's just one of those things that everyone talks about. You actually get this ID card, and it says your name, it says your date of birth, it also says your religion in it. So, and it's similar across all other Southeast Asian countries. And I come to Australia, and it's really funny because it's religion, politics, and I think there was one other thing you just don't talk about. And I find that really, really strange. Because back where I come from, you're either a Muslim, a Hindu, a Christian, or a Buddhist, okay? And we all, commingle freely in those contexts. In 2010, I got invited to head up a missions trip to India. Never been there before, never had any interest in going to India, but somebody asked, so I felt I should go. And that's where I gained a real basic understanding of the Hindu caste system. And if you guys aren't, and again, this is really elementary understanding of the Hindu caste system, so I'm going to do my best without offending anyone. But basically what I learned with the Hindu caste system is that you are reincarnated into one of the level of the caste, okay? So if you're a priestly caste, you're reincarnated from their god, from their head. If you're a warrior caste, from their shoulders, a working class from their stomach. If you're the lowest caste, you're from the legs. And there's actually a caste outside of that, funny enough, called the outcaste. And what I learned when I was in India was that these outcasts, if somebody from the caste system, even if their shadow touched an outcast, they had the legal right to beat them to death. So, and whatever caste you were born into, that's the caste that you'll always stay in, and that doesn't change, okay? So, and that really broke my heart. I remember a story when I was working with these pastors over there. They told me this famous story of this 8-year-old girl they found sweeping the steps outside this abandoned building there. And if you've ever been to India, we call it the city of contrasts. There's the absolute wealth and the absolute poverty, and they all coexist. And they asked this girl that was sweeping the steps, and she was from the lower caste, and they said to her, now, if we gave you that building because it's empty, what would you do with it? And the answer actually was quite profound, and the answer actually broke their hearts, and did mine too when I heard it. She thought for a little while, and she goes, I will sweep it all. That's all I'll do with it. Because from where she comes from and the religion that she comes from, you will be no better than the position that you've been born into, okay? So, interestingly, in 2012, so I park that aside just for a tick, but in 2012, the Red Frogs organisation asked me to go to Bali. And again, another country that my wife and I had never had any interest in going to. But again, I said, yep, you asked, I'll go. So I went there, and then I started realising exactly what God started doing in 2010. Because unlike 98% of the Indonesian population who are Muslim, the Balinese are actually Hindu. And so I found myself in a context which I was exposed to 2 years earlier, but not knowing why back then. So it was actually quite a great experience. It was there that I met Jeff and Emma Collins, who were also into jiu-jitsu and they were teaching kids at the slum jiu-jitsu. Long story short, I came back, spoke to my coach and dear friend, Jamie Murray, and said, look, there's this slum jiu-jitsu thing going on there. We need to get behind this project and see what we can do. 2 years ago now, with the help of Jamie, Renegade, Grapplers for Christ, and the community that belongs here, we raised enough money to start up a club there and use jiu-jitsu as a connection point between the kids and Christ. One of the profound things about jiu-jitsu, and we didn't realise this until we really got into it, is that these Hindu kids that we were actually ministering to, they were caught up in this Hindu captivity, this mindset that told them that you'll never progress beyond where you are and what you're born into. But as we know, with a bit of hard work, a bit of dedication, and just by showing up onto the mats, you'll eventually get your blue belt, you'll get your purple belt, and one day you'll get your black belt. And what we started to realise that started changing the mindset and setting free these kids of the mindset that they'll always be where they were born into, that they have now the ability to rise up beyond their situation. And after realising that, we knew that we were in the right place and we were doing the right things there. So, and what I realised through that is that, the God that we serve, the community that we belong to, as a Christian, we don't serve a God that's far off in this distant land. We actually serve a God that's really interested in where we're at and really interested in, to the point where he actually gets down into the mud with us. And I really felt this personally too over the last few years. And some of you guys might know, in 2015 to early 2017, so not so long ago, I suffered from really severe postnatal depression, and I had no idea what was going on. I just thought I was absolutely just tired and everything else from having a new baby. But yeah, looking back at it now, my wife and I identified that it was really, really bad. I experienced all those things that came with severe depression, but I also discovered a God like I've never known before. And I want to share a little bit of that with you, if you wouldn't mind. So, just really quickly, I spend a lot of time on planes, as you might have gathered. I don't know about you, I love watching movies. Like, I don't care if I'm doing a night flight through the night or in the mornings and that. I sit down, and not a lot of people know this, I've found. I sit there, you can actually watch the movie straight away even before it takes off. And so that's what I do. And I know that if I get started straight away, I can watch 3 movies before I hit Bali. So I get really annoyed when the captain cuts over and pauses your screen and goes and gives you a mid-flight sort of, we're 4,000 feet above sea level, we're crossing over Dubbo right now. I'm like, I couldn't care less. I want to watch the Avengers. Just let me go. But the irony is that when there's turbulence in the flight, the first person I want to hear from is the captain. And so it made me think, maybe that's why God allows turbulence in our lives, so that he can get our attention a little bit. So, and what I learned through that was, storms are actually inevitable in our lives, but it's also super necessary. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 45, it says, he, being God, causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and he sends a rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. So we're not immune as Christians to having some storms in our lives. It goes on to say, Matthew chapter 8, 23 to 26. Then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. And looking back at my depression, I really did feel like I was drowning. I only just had enough energy to get through the day and to keep this, this happy demeanour, this happy face when I go to training or when I go to work. And by the time I get home, I was absolutely spent and my family got the worst of me. So, and I've apologised profusely for that, so they've forgiven me. But I really felt like I was drowning. And even worse, I felt like Jesus was asleep in the boat when I needed him the most. When things got to its worst, I had a few friends come over and pray for me, and it's really funny, I can't explain it, but something really gradual started changing in my life, and my perspective and my focus just started shifting. I learned how to worship in a new way, started focusing more on God than on my problems. Maybe this might explain it a bit more. In Matthew chapter 14, verse 28 to 31, it says, this is when Peter walked on water. You might know the story. "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" I recognise me in this story. In the midst of my storm, I was gazing at my circumstances and only glancing at God occasionally. When really I should have been gazing at God and glancing at my circumstances. Look, of course, when things aren't right in your life, you have to take practical steps to address them. Like seeking professional help or taking medication if you need to. But focusing on the problem rather than God is a sure way of just spiralling downhill. And that's what I was doing in the initial stages. The beautiful thing about this story, I've gone back and read it over and over again because it means so much to me now. Jesus didn't just say, "Get in the boat and I'll meet you on the other side," to his disciples. He actually got in the boat with them. And not only did he get in the boat with them, he got in the boat first and said, "Come in." Okay. I want to use another analogy, another imagery for you, if you wouldn't mind. Praise God, I've fully recovered from postnatal depression now. I'm sure I'll encounter other storms in my life, but for now, I feel like I've fully recovered. But what I learned through the process is that storms are really, really necessary. And we learn things in storms that we could never learn in any other season. I love the imagery in Psalm 92, verse 12. It says, "The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree." Palm trees bend in storms, but they don't break. Palm trees actually benefit from storms. When they get beaten down by hurricanes and monsoons and other types of storms, their trunks grow thicker and their roots grow deeper. And it's actually quite profound. There's this place in Oracle, Arizona. It's called Biosphere 2, and you'd love this, Popey. It's a Earth Systems Science research facility. And the palm trees in the biosphere would fall over when they reach full maturity. And the reason why is because in the biosphere, there's no storms. So if you apply that to your own life, and I certainly apply that to mine, I don't like going through storms, but I'm thankful that they're there. And I'm more thankful that God is actually there with me because it's necessary for my growth. So, really, really short story. When Amy and I first got married, we were in a heap of debt for all sorts of other reasons. Came out of a previous marriage, heap of debt. Maxed out the credit cards in the middle of a build, all that type of stuff. We needed $100 to get to Amy's cousin's wedding. We didn't have it. Maxed out everything, didn't have it. And we didn't know where we were going to get it from, and we were too proud to tell anyone because we were new Christians and all that. Anyway, I was at work, Amy opens the door one day and this envelope falls from the top of the door. And Amy opens it up and there's this scripture in it and $100. But nobody knew. And we don't know where it came from. To this day, we don't know where it came from. She was so freaked out, she rang me. And instead of being really happy about it, she was like, I don't know what's going on here, which was really cool. So the reason why I tell you that is that 100%, we know a God that gives you $100 when you need it. We know a God that pays your electricity bills before your lights go out. We know a God, and Amy's particularly good at this, that finds you that car park when you're really late for an appointment, yeah? We know that God. But through this experience that I've had, I've also discovered a God that will sit with me in the storms, that would sit with me in the mud, and that will get his hands dirty. and meet me exactly where I'm at. And for me, that's a massive blessing. So in closing, I guess what I want to say is that, I no longer believe in a God who promises me smooth seas. I believe in a God who inspires us to get across to the other side, and he walks with us through the storms of life. I believe in a God who tells us in John 16:33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome this world." So the next time you're in a storm, guys, I encourage you, remember Psalm 92 verse 12a, "The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree." Thank you.